Welcome back. It's been another day of frantic diplomacy across Europe as leaders prepare for a crucial summit, you guessed it, on Brexit. The EU's Donald Tusk is sounding an alarm, describing the critical Irish border question as a, quote, Gordian knot. Let's try and untangle some of this, so to speak. Then Nina dos Santos is with me. So a Gordian knot. This is all the battle of the backstops, I guess. So we know that everyone's agreed there needs to be a backstop, but they have very, very different ideas about it. So let's look at the map of the UK and the Republic of Ireland as well. Just so everyone knows, this is where Northern Ireland sits as well, very much, of course, part of the United Kingdom. This is the sort of the backdrop, if you like, for the backstop battle.
That's right. And here's the hard border. This is the only land border that the United Kingdom would have with the rest of the European Union, which is why it is such a contentious issue, the so-called famous Gordian knot, which I'll remind you,
yes.
Hannah, you have to use creativity and some loopholes, apparently, to solve.
OK.
Which is where the issue of the creative diplomacy comes in, with the EU suggestion of a backstop.
Which I think we can bring in now. So there's been so much talk about this border, hard border, where it's going to sit, if it's going to sit anywhere at all. And now you can see here that the EU's suggestion for the backstop is that it should be down the Irish Sea. Why is that problematic?
Well, logically speaking, you'd have thought that geography would dictate that this would be the logical place to put the border, because what it would mean is that essentially you'd effectively use the ports in the United Kingdom to then do the checks and balances on the goods and services, particularly the goods that would come through those types of ports. The reason why this is problematic is that obviously we have had years of sectarian violence, generations of sectarian violence through the times of the Troubles between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, well, inside Northern Ireland, but also the border was an issue for that particular violence. And so with the idea of the Good Friday Peace Agreement, that helped to get rid of this kind of infrastructure, and nobody wants to bring that type of infrastructure back, lest violence return as well to Northern Ireland.
So the EU's idea of a backstop would be to separate Northern Ireland off from the rest of the UK and have an agreement where customs and trade is involved, keeping effectively Northern Ireland on its own inside EU rules.
Exactly, and you can imagine this is where the EU is homed in on the constitutional soft underbelly of the United Kingdom, particularly sensitive at the moment, obviously, Hannah, because the United Kingdom's current government relies on the DUP from Northern Ireland to make up the numbers to get its votes through. And the DUP has made it absolutely clear that what they don't want is a return to the hard border or any type of framework that would see that part of the United Kingdom constitutionally cleaved off from the rest of the country, albeit even temporarily. So this type of arrangement is being viewed by Brexiteers and the DUP as something of a political land grab by the EU.
And this idea of separating Northern Ireland off, as you say, unacceptable to the DUP, also unacceptable to Theresa May as well. She's been very clear that no Prime Minister would ever agree to separating that off. So this is her plan then. She's suggesting that the whole of the UK, the Northern Ireland included, would be part of a backstop plan of sharing rules with the EU in a transitionary role for a temporary period of time.
Well, this is the sort of temporary fudge, if you like. And so as much as the EU had an issue with where the border would lie, well, hardline Brexiteers have an issue with this, meaning that the border effectively is outside the UK and the UK remains inside the EU in all but name, doesn't have the right to strike out on its own free trade deals, and that it would be beholden to Brussels forever, especially if it doesn't actually have a time frame for this type of arrangement to have been finished by. And that's where we come to the issue of timing, because that's the type of issue that she's having with members of her cabinet.
Right.
They want a time frame to make sure that the UK isn't ball and chain to the rest of the EU.
So ultimately what we're saying is that the Brexiteers, the likes of Boris Johnson, who we hear so much from all the time, they don't like this idea because this isn't Brexit. This isn't what they say people voted on in this country.
No, this goes back to the issue of whether Brexit really means Brexit. Now, the thing I should point out, Hannah, is that if, for instance, this arrangement isn't actually something that people can come to an agreement on, well, those who would advocate for going back to World Trade Organization rules and have a so-called hard Brexit say it's not necessarily a bad thing.
That would be a no-deal scenario.
A no-deal scenario.